Lee Summit is your destination for big city vibes and small town charm.
Head to the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market, where local meets fresh. Then grab a cup of coffee and discover a variety of shops and boutiques just around the corner. Continue the fun in downtown Lee Summit at a retro arcade bar. Discover your new beer at one of our 6 locally owned breweries. Cool off with some handcrafted cocktails at happy hour. End the night with live music and good company. Lee Summit, Missouri.
Welcome to the Lee Summit Sign Department. We are going to walk you through our process from start to finish. We make signs as needed here. It's not like we just go out into the field and place a speed limit sign here, no parking here. Our traffic engineers, they go through and they'll do field studies. They'll send us down an engineering work order for us to go out, place new signs or remove signs as needed. Coming from the material, our blanks come in and they're just aluminum blanks. So we can put our white, our red, our fluorescent yellow, green, whatever. And basically what it looks like is just that there. Throw it up into the roller. And once we got it covered, take it to our work table here, and Tim will cut the corners, cut all the access off to where it's lined up right. As far as the plotter and the software that we use, there's a street name sign there, and he's gonna go ahead and print that out on the plotter so you can see the plotter and how it operates and runs. There's standards for the height, even just on letters on the sign blank. Basically what we have on the computer there is it's pretty much set up to those. And it goes through, it's got a very small but sharp needle that goes through and cuts everything out letter by letter. Once that's done cutting, our next stage would be bringing it over here. Currently picking out the sign letters right now. We call it weeding or picking or however you want to call it. Next, putting it on the transfer tape. Then after it's taped, we bring it over to the roller. That's where we apply it to the actual sign blank. And we'll roll it through one time just to get the air bubbles out. And the last stage is basically just taking the transfer tape off the front of it. And there's a finished product of the street name sign. We'll take you out to the field and show you our process that we go through. We're gonna go out and follow our sign guys, get something installed for you. This is where we check our underground utilities. Tim, you got AT&T?
AT&T's back here.
Evergy, Google, so we should be good to go. We normally put all of our stuff together out in the field. Then once the base is installed, we'll go ahead and put the post in there. We've come up to perfect. And that's how we do it. Simple. Quick.
Traditionally, we think as police officers, those responding to law enforcement needs within the community. But honestly, we are there to serve our citizens, and our citizens do go into crisis. They do have mental health crises, and we're being called to those scenes on a regular basis. In order to help serve those citizens better, we did initiate the Crisis Intervention Team Program. These are officers that are specially trained to de-escalate crisis situations. Recently, we've brought co-responders onto the scene, licensed qualified mental health professionals housed within our police department, and they respond with those officers directly to those scenes where a crisis is occurring so they can interact with that citizen and get them the help they need right there on that scene.
The co-responders are either bachelor or master level in a behavioral health related field. They wear plain clothes, they don't carry weapons or anything like that.
I have a police radio that I listen to all day. Listen for, those key words: mental health, behavioral health, crisis.
There's a lot of officers that just call for me. I have my own radio number.
I also have the ability to self-dispatch to them and say 982 is en route.
Officers en route, 914, Armstrong.
So typically I arrive after they've made it safe. I'll make contact and get kind of the rundown, and then I just kind of jump right in.
Like, hey, my name's Allison. I'm a mental health professional. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to take you to jail or arrest you.
Sometimes all a person needs is a voice, someone neutral, someone outside that, can listen. I do a lot of safety planning, including family, their support network, who's close to you. If they're home alone, who can come over and hang out with you today? Can we lock away your sharps? Can we put up your meds? Do you need meds? Can we get you over to the urgent care to get you assessed for your medications? Some of them also are like, oh, I'm so glad you came. This made me feel so much better.
Our main goal as co-responders is to, one, get people connected to the services that they need, and also divert from emergency rooms and jails.
And they almost get a different view of the police responding. That lets me know you care and the officers care.
Please, how can we help you?
My husband has...
In 2020, we had 722 mental health related calls for service. 2022, by that time, 1,479. These mental health related calls for service are increasing. How we're responding to that is increasing the number of crisis intervention team officers we have available, as well as the number of co-responders we have available to respond on these calls.
So what I think is important for the community to know about the co-responder program is that we're here, we exist. All you have to do when you call 911 is ask for us. Say, hey, I want a co-responder to respond to this crisis, and we'll go. I was really struggling about 8 years ago on my personal journey with mental health, and I met some amazing social workers and amazing programs that have helped me get to where I am today. I really couldn't see myself doing anything else. We want to help, and that's what we love to do.
So I had a client, we got a call, she had some suicidal ideations, and she really felt that she had nobody. And and getting to know her story and getting to know who comes around and sees you, well, then we found a support person, and they responded immediately, and we made a plan. I called back and checked on her in an hour, and then I checked on her in 2 hours. We were able to get her into the additional services to where she talks to someone every week or more. I just took a person that really just thought they had nobody and nobody would show up for them, and show them you do. And you'll be amazed who is in your corner if you just simply say, I need a little help.
Any questions? Yes, Councilmember Edson.
Since this is a cooperative agreement, is this similar to like when we buy things through the mart?
It'd be similar. We don't buy through them.
We moved to Lee Summit right before we had our third child, and we ended up raising all 4 of our children here. And it's been just such a great place to raise kids. Well, I'd been involved in government and politics for a long time, different aspects of it. And then when I was raising my kids, I was very involved in different community organizations and involved with the schools. And as my kids got older, and I saw them and their friends starting to leave the community, I realized that there were some things that needed to be done in order to attract younger people back to Lee Summit, and I wanted to be part of that conversation. We need to work on economic development and keep trying to get more jobs here that pay well so that they will attract our kids. We have this great school system that we're all paying for, and yet our kids graduate and leave. We need to work with the school districts and with the businesses to create an environment that keeps our kids here. We have a great community with great housing, but we also don't have enough housing that is attainable for middle class. People who are just starting in the workforce can't afford to buy a house here at this point in time. If you take your average firefighter and your teacher and they're married, it's very hard for them to buy a house in Lee Summit. So some of my priorities when I ran were economic development, attainable housing, and public safety. When I ran 6 years ago, our police officers and our firefighters were some of the worst paid public safety folks in the metro area. And in the past 6 years, We've done a great job of getting their pay up, getting their benefits up, and now there will be a public safety tax, which will be a game changer for Lee Summit. It will help us to attract and retain new talent for the coming years. All communities are having a hard time recruiting and retaining police and firefighters. So if we can be a place that they want to come and is desirable, it's going to be great for the well-being of our community. We need to make sure that not only are we paying people well, but that we have enough fire stations as the city grows. We need to make sure that we grow the police department. Something else I'm really proud of, the replacement of Fire Station 4 and 5. I started taking council members on tours of Fire Station number 4 to show them how badly a replacement for that station was needed. There are so many opportunities to get involved in this community, whether it's serving on a committee, whether it's participating in the Citizens Leadership Academy, which the city sponsors. It's easy to sit at home and complain and think you understand how it works, and then when you actually understand how it works, you have a better appreciation for it, and you'll want to get involved more. I just wanted to clarify that. I think Hillary did a great job. Thank you.
Legislative and Intergovernmental Affairs or Relations Committee. Roll call, please.
Councilmember DeMoro.
Here.
Councilmember Lovell.
Here.
Mayor Baird.
Here.
Councilmember Pryor.
Okay. Next up, approval of the agenda. I would entertain a motion.
Chair, I move to approve the agenda.
Second. Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Lovell.
Aye.
Councilmember Pryor. Mayor Baird.
Aye.
Councilmember DeMoro.
Aye. That would be a unanimous vote to approve the agenda. Next up, public comments. Do we have any public comments for anybody?
No, not that I received.
No.
The clerk's office did not receive any submitted in advance, and we have no other members online with us today.
Okay, well, thank you. We'll jump right into the business, the approval of the January 8th, 2024 Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee action letter. Roll call or motion, please.
Chair, I move to approve the action letter.
Okay. Okay. I have a motion and a second to approve the January 8th, 2024 action letter. Any discussion on the letter? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Baird.
Aye.
Councilmember DeMoro.
Aye.
Councilmember Lovell.
Aye.
And Councilmember Pryor.
Here she comes.
Here she comes, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Maya, if you want to vote to approve the action letter, say aye. Oh,
Councilmember Pryor, do you want to?
Aye. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Unanimous vote. All right, next up, discussion, legislative updates. Mr. Head and Mr. Pollock, it looks like.
Thank you, Chair DeMoro. Actually, we have both Zach and John Hensley, who are they are partners in the firm that we have as our lobbyist, and I have asked them to just kind of provide us sort of quick hits on hot topics. So the legislative report that I sent out this morning, I think it's a little bit lighter than we've had the last few weeks. It doesn't seem like there's quite as much big stuff in hearings this week, but I asked them to kind of hit some of the top issues that they see out there right now and kind of give us a flavor of what's going on in Jefferson City. So, gentlemen, I will turn it over to you. You might introduce yourselves so they will know who's who.
You got it. Thank you, Brian. Zach Pollock with Versa Governmental Strategies. This is John Hensley.
Good morning.
Thank you all for having us this morning. We'll try to be quick. Probably the biggest thing would be the landfill legislation, and Senate Bill 739 by Senator Searpoy is actually on the Senate informal calendar. So if the Senate decides that they're going to actually function, they could actually go to that bill at any time. I talked to his chief of staff this morning, and she said maybe today, but probably not this week, because the assumption is the entire Capitol will shut down for the parade on Wednesday. This House Bill 1751 by Representative Hafner. It had a vote in the local government last week that was unanimous. They will have to have a hearing and rules, which will probably happen this week since rules meets. There's 3 different rules committees, and they meet pretty much every day to keep moving bills forward to the floor. Are there any questions on the landfill bill? I know the mayor's been down both times for the hearing for the House bill and the Senate bill. Thought those hearings went really well. The Senate, like I said, the Senate bill's on the calendar already, and it just depends on how the Senate is functioning, if it is at all. We shall see here about 4 o'clock today, find out. But the Senate bill is teed up and ready to go. House bill just has to get through rules and then be put on the calendar for perfection. Are there any questions on the landfill bill?
Mayor,
Bills?
did you have a question?
No.
I saw your sign. Any questions? Mia or John?
I just have a question so from my understanding, Bratton has one filed as well. Does that hurt the chances of Searpoise passing or no?
If Bratton's bill was not voted on in committee, they did that on purpose because of the things that are happening in the Senate and Senator Searboy wanting to take his bill and his bill only to the floor. Could the things going on in the Senate be detrimental to the passage of the bill? It's a possibility. That remains to be seen. With the dysfunction going on in the Senate, everything is up in the air.
There are a lot of efforts towards relationship management going on currently to try to preserve or enhance the chances for this bill and not to get it caught up in squabbling. But yeah, at this point, both bills are out of committee and both are, still moving and have the chance to move.
And what was the vote? What was that vote? What was the vote of the committee?
On the Senate side, I believe the Senate side committee vote, I believe it was 6-1.
Yeah.
And the one that was not abstaining, but the one that the no vote, is that the senator from the St. Louis area?
Yeah, from Jefferson County, Senator Coleman.
Yes. Her and Senator Trent are probably they are the two biggest oppositions in the Senate. And I know conversations are continuing to happen between the coalition of cities and different organizations that are pushing for the passage of this bill to try to mediate those issues with the hopes that they won't just talk it to death. That they will state their. Go ahead.
What is the percentage that when it goes to the Senate floor? What's the is it a simple majority, 2/3?
It's a simple, yeah. I mean, it just needs 18 votes to get perfected.
Yeah, but I mean, most importantly for our purposes, it needs to get to a vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know why there's such opposition from Senator Coleman and Senator Trent? I've heard rumors. I don't know the actual answer, so I thought maybe you guys would.
I think Mary Elizabeth Coleman is a personal issue that I would care not to go into.
Okay, that's kind of what I've heard. So
yes, and then Senator Trent is just property rights. It just keeps. I mean, I'll be honest with you. The Moynihan, or no, what is their? I can never remember the last name of the group that's wanting to put the landfill there. Yes, pretty much lives in Senator Trent's office.
And when he's voiced, a rationale for it, it like Zach said, it's around property rights and local control.
So which one abstained and which one voted no? Didn't one abstain and one voted no?
Well, I don't think Trent's on that committee.
No, Trent's not even on that committee.
Coleman abstained then? Or was she the no
voted
vote?
No.
She voted no in committee.
She was the no vote. Okay.
Yeah, I don't recall an abstention, but I could look back.
So just to be perfectly clear, both of those individuals realize that I'm asking actually if they realize that the Mid-America Regional Council has put out a report that's not directed at this bill or the House bill, either one. It was just a general report on the need for a landfill. And their range is 19 to 39 years, and it did not include the Sedalia landfill, the brand new one, which extends it to over 50 years. The need for a landfill. Are both of those people, do you know, are both of them aware of that?
I'm sorry, we got cut off there for just a moment. Could you repeat that, sir?
Yes, I was just wondering if the Mid-America Regional Council, which is a 10 county council here in the local area, has put out a report that was unrelated to the landfill, either the Senate bill or House bill, and their range is 19 to 37 years before a landfill is needed. However, it did not include the Sedalia landfill, the brand new one. So in my estimation, unscientific, it's going to be over 50 years before we need a landfill in this area. Are they aware of that?
Both of those senators are fully aware of that report that's come out. I just don't think that report matters to them. That's an opinion.
Yeah. No, I understand. Yeah. So is there any other questions for Zach and John on this matter? Seeing none. Did you guys have other stuff you wanted to talk about also?
Yeah, we can mention a couple other items.
Yeah. Okay, please do. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So Senator Elaine Gannon has SB 774, which relates to modifying candidate filing periods, which is important, or at least of interest to any local government. And really, it just shifts the filing period 1 week closer to election day. So it takes it from the 17th, from opening the 17th Tuesday before an election and closing the 14th Tuesday before an election, to opening the 16th Tuesday before an election and closing the 13th Tuesday before an election. And there's also allowance made in her bill for what would happen if closing day lands on a holiday, federal holiday. I think this is to get around some Christmas time type complications that have come up. Representative Bonneker has a similar bill in the House, but his would take it from the 16th Tuesday before as opening to the 11th Tuesday before for closing. But his has been referred to committee. It hasn't been heard yet. So the main one moving on this is Gannon's bill, and that's going to be an executive session today at 2:00 in Senate Local Government. So we're just keeping an eye on that, and that's been in the reports that we've provided. Did you want to mention the city paying for utility movement?
Yeah, the House Bill 2056 by Representative Keithley out of St. Louis County. That bill would require municipalities to pay for the relocation of the infrastructure and the right-of-way due to road maintenance, unregulated utilities. That bill had a hearing on the 30th of January and has not been scheduled for a vote, which leads me to believe that it's not a huge priority, just because it didn't get voted out the week after its hearing, which if any bill has a priority designation, they do that immediately following the hearing the next week at the next scheduled hearing.
Okay.
Yeah. But we'll keep an eye on it, absolutely, and report any findings.
Could you, were you done? I'm sorry, I didn't want to break in. Could you comment
if you have questions
on House Bill 1416? That's a bill by Dan Stacy about the believe I'm trying to remember the acronym LIDAR, LIDAR.
Just had a hearing
little
last
confused.
week.
Pardon me?
Had a hearing last week.
And I'm a little confused on what his end result, what he wants to see on that bill. I've read it, and I'm not sure exactly what he wants to accomplish on that bill. Do you have any insight into that?
At this point in time, I do not, but I'm happy to find that out and share that with the group.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, if there are other questions, on those, move on to something. We know you all are very, very interested in anything that would affect or reduce municipal revenues. There are, I think, more than a dozen bills to exempt from sales tax particular types of sales of particular types of products like food, diapers, firearms, ammo, hygiene products. The list goes on. Anytime there's action on one of those bills, we're including it in the report. We're tracking it, we're monitoring it, we're reporting on it. And as those move, you all will know. And if there's particular action you want us to attempt to take on any of those, we can jump at any time. But we just want to make sure that you're all aware sort of what's moving out there. So we try to keep you updated on those items. And then there's on a different topic related to local government meetings, Representative West has HB 2206. It was referred initially to the House Committee on Government Efficiency and Downsizing. Public hearing was on the 17th of January, and it hasn't been brought back yet for executive session. This, I think the top line is it requires a meeting speaker policy for political subdivisions by July of 2025. And then it also sets a bunch of restrictions on limitations that the political subdivision could place on speakers. The provisions relating to setting times and timelines or time limits for speakers, not banning an individual unless they've committed a crime in the location where the meeting's taking place. Meetings with less than 24 hours notice or that are exclusively going to be conducted by electronic means would have to state in the minutes just sort of the good cause for departing from the norm, and some other limitations that would to some degree significantly alter how public meetings are held by political subdivisions. We'll keep tracking that, but again, there's been no movement on that since its public hearing nearly a month ago. You have anything else you want to mention?
I guess I can mention the video service provider bill, taxing or the franchise tax on the streaming services. That the Senate bill actually has a hearing tomorrow by Holly Thompson Rader, who's running for lieutenant governor. So yeah, that's got a hearing tomorrow. Now Representative Keithley's House Bill 2057, it was voted out of committee 13-1, and they voted out of rules 8-1. A former mayor, Bill Faulkner out of St. Joe, was the lone no vote in committee, House Utilities Committee. Now it passed out of rules 8-1, but it is not on the calendar yet, which I'm going to have to talk to the floor leader's office to find out why that hasn't got onto the floor yet, but that's pretty good news that it's not moving as fast as the proponents would like it to. But I know the opposite or the streamers have been working it really, really hard, and we keep a close, very, very close eye on it.
Yeah. And probably the last thing we'd mention that we haven't engaged on very much, but we're taking a closer look at it, and we're going to keep an eye on it, are these bills, two bills related to a paint recycling program. We talked to Brian this morning, and he sort of explained a little bit of the concern the city might have on it. SB 936 has a hearing tomorrow. So that'll definitely be part of this week's report.
Actually, the sister bill in the House, both of them have
that's right,
hearings this week.
Yeah,
tomorrow. One's this evening in House Conservation and Natural Resources, and then tomorrow in Senator Searpoy's Commerce Committee.
Yep.
Okay.
So we'll have
We
more on that later this week.
Yeah, that's actually one of our agenda items here, that Brian's going to give us a presentation about that here in just a few minutes. So bring us up to speed. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Pollock or Mr. Hensley? Mayor.
Yeah, you guys are doing a great job, and the reports you give us are excellent. So thank you for all you're doing for us. With regard to funds, budget, I mean, the state's been sitting on money for quite some time. Is there money that we're sitting on now? Can you give us just a general, I don't know, some brief summary or statement on that status and what the plan is?
You want to take this week? The governor, there's a big discrepancy between the legislature and the administration. One feels that there's a bunch of money out there. The other one, the administration says, wait till next year. We're going to need to hold on to this money because after all of the federal money's gone and tax cuts kick in, they're going to start within a couple of years, they're going to have to start cutting. And so the governor's office is trying to play it very, very, very careful in their budget that they presented. I'm trying to remember the number. I want to say that there was like $2 billion left over on the federal money, and the governor's budget took it down to $1 billion, but revenues coming in are really, really slow. So they're trying to push the line that there is no money for extra stuff, but there's always wiggle room in the budget. Always is. And how much that is, it's unknown because of both sides saying one thing. And it's a very, very touchy subject. And there is some money out there. The amount is the problem. I mean, I've had conversations with the state budget director, and he's retiring at the end of this year and said, I'm so happy not to be here next year. If that tells you anything.
Could just be a general statement.
It could be a general statement.
So if they're saying that there's no more money left to spend, that means that they're saying that they've spent all the money that they were supposed to spend that came through the federal government.
Right, the ARPA money and the IIJA money. And there's still some of it sitting out there, but most of it has been allocated. Has it been spent? No, because they have the timelines like the end of 26 to spend it all. But
and the allocations of those dollars could change if there are changes in the programs or projects to which they were initially appropriated.
Right.
But just getting down to the bottom of that barrel.
Okay.
Mayor, were you finished?
Well, we're going to come down to MML next week.
Right.
And we've got all those meetings lined up, and I know that you have a copy of all of that, right? So
yes.
So one thing that we'll bring up again that we brought up last year is I-470.
Right.
How it's going to become it's already a bottleneck, and it's going to become a bigger problem. And they're widening 70 Highway, and this connects to 70 Highway as a major artery that comes down through our community. So we'll bring it up to all the state senators and representatives. And we've had meetings with Congressman Graves, Congressman Cleaver, and we'll try to get in front of them again in a month. But they're listening to us. They're being very. I'm really pleased that we're having conversations. They're not ignoring us. So,
absolutely.
Therefore, we just want to be able to say the right things next week to our state representatives and senators, because it seems like people are, like sometimes they just shut us down when it comes to money of any kind. That's not been the way this is. So I want to keep that conversation going this coming week. So, because basically Congressman Graves' staff said that, we need to, it would need to be some type of cost share with the state.
Right. And we did have a meeting with Brian. Is it Ryan?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep.
We met with him and MoDOT, the regional district engineer, and there were some projects on their list with 470. I would just have to go back and find my notes on it.
Okay.
Yeah, but Ryan has all that.
Yeah, Ryan was on that on that Zoom that we had with MoDOT, and I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but I'll find out for sure what kind of possible wiggle room there might be for projects of that sort. For when you come down there.
Last year we went down with too big of an ask. I mean, the number we were putting in front of them as estimates from MoDOT, it just kind of stopped the conversation because it was too large.
Right.
So if we got to do this over the next, 7-10 years, with incremental, phasing of that area, we'll do it. I just need to get a plan. And
you got it.
Yep.
Okay. Was that it, Mayor?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I do have a couple questions. It's actually a semantics question, I think, because when you said the sales tax were slow, the sales tax receipts are slow to come in, were you talking about the actual receipts to the Treasury, or are we seeing a trend on the statewide level of lower sales tax overall? I mean, are people spending less, or is it just the receipts that are slow to come in?
I think it's the receipts.
Okay.
That are coming in. I mean, the last week.
Yeah, there's always a month or two lag, as you know. But forecasting has not been forecasted growth has not been great. And then actual receipts, I believe, have tended to slightly outperform those forecasts. But once you factor in inflation and everything else, it's still sort of a flat best case.
I was just going to say
scenario.
The word flat, it keeps getting repeated.
And then the other question had to do with I was communications with the Governor Parsons, Northwest Missouri. Well, he's like the liaison for Northwest Missouri out of the governor's office. And in that discussion was the I-44 study they're doing. Yep. And basically, is that an actual ask by MoDOT to actually redo I-44 in addition to I-70? And I'm asking that in regards to where does our 470 project fit in there if they're publicly saying they're studying what to do with I-44? Where's 470, our 470 fit in there?
In the governor's state of the state, he mentioned a line item of however million dollars for the study for I-44. I wish I could remember the number. number of millions of dollars that they put in for that. And that's for the study, environmental study, everything. But I'm not recalling the governor ever mentioning 470.
Okay.
Yeah, so summer before last, when the I-70 initiative was really taking off, they were having conversations trying to get, the reps and senators across southern Missouri to buy into the I-70 project, and they're like, well, 44 is not in great shape either. What are we going to do about 44? So there was conversation at that point about, I-70 needs to be the primary focus now, but I-44 is very much a priority also. So it was kind of all wrapped into the I-70 conversation at that point. So we'd expect that to continue as a priority, but exactly where 470 ranks along with other other road projects, we'll have to get a finer understanding of.
And I may even ask that question next week when we're in Jefferson City to see what the floor leader and Senator Serpoy and people like that feel about it. Because actually, and I'm going out on a limb, per capita, per mile, road miles, 470 probably carries as many people as I-44, but I-44 is longer. I mean, in hour by hour, there's hours that I guarantee you 470 carries more people than 44, even though it crosses the entire state. That's my opinion. Okay. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Pollock and Hensley? I don't see any other questions. And gentlemen, thank you for logging in and joining us. And I do also appreciate your reports. Very informative, very straightforward, and I'm glad every time I get one because I read it. I read it front to back. Gain a lot of information.
We appreciate those comments and Mayor Baird's comments on that, and it's really been a real pleasure to work with you all.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. See you next week.
You bet. Thank you so much.
Look forward to it.
All right. Moving on. Next item is going to be the discussion in the paint recycling program legislation. Mr. Head.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Bussin is here, and he has a sort of a short presentation to provide, and I am going to attempt to share my screen so you all can see it. Okay. Do you see the presentation, Paint Management in Missouri?
Yes.
All right. Very good. This is I don't think it's highly controversial, but because this has the potential for it to have some sort of a fee in it, I've read through the bill, and from what I can tell, it appears that they're kind of expecting an administrative process for determining exactly how that fee would be collected. It talks about the manufacturers assessing it in the price and then funding a program, but it gives alternatives as well. But because it could actually create some sort of a tax or fee or something that would be passed on to consumers, I didn't feel comfortable with staff making just a decision to say, yes, we're going to support this. I felt like it was something that the council needed to support or not, or LRC to support or not. But with that, I'm going to ask Mr. Bussin to go ahead, and I have the control of the slides. So Chris, if you'll just tell me when you're ready for the next slide, I will advance it.
Sure, I appreciate it. Chris Bussin, Solid Waste Superintendent with Public Works Department. Thanks for the opportunity to say a few words. Paint management in Missouri is sort of driven from my participation with Mark. I'm not the expert on it, but our Mark staffer is actually driving to Jeff City now to testify in the hearing this afternoon, so she could not give this, but next slide, Brian, thank you. There's a lot of paint left over in Missouri. That's no surprise. We have our own household hazardous waste facility, which collects from a little over 2,000 citizens per year. Volume, service access, and costs are the primary issues. Next slide. A little over 1 million gallons of paint go unused in Missouri. And these are actually Mark Stafford slides, so I modified them just a little bit for us. But it's enough to paint 52,000 two-story houses. So we're looking at the utilization of extra paint. Next slide, please. By volume, it is the largest type of material that the household hazardous waste facilities collect. And that includes Lee Summit's facilities. There's only 2 facilities on the Missouri side of the state line. That's Kansas City's facility and Lee Summit's facility. Both of those are permanent. Most of the material they collect is paint, and the largest cost that they have to shell out money for is paint. Next slide, please. This is a good example of a mobile site. They have 10 mobile sites per year in the 5-county area that Mark serves on the Missouri side of the state line. This one's from Blue Springs. Lee Summit doesn't have this problem because we have a permanent facility that's open. The mobile sites are just exactly that. They rotate around the 5-county area to serve citizens. Next slide, please. This is the most significant slide, I think. If you see the light tan colored areas have limited service, they have no paint, no latex paint are accepted, and limited collections. The green areas is the Mark Solid Waste Management District. The west side, of course, the Kansas City District has full-time facilities that citizens can access. And the red areas have no access at all for citizens. So what this is trying to do is serve more residents, serve more customers, try to divert more paint, make it more accessible to them. Next slide, please. This is sort of where the local government revenues or expenditures rather come in. 50% of the budgets are spent on paint management. Now at Lee Summit, we have a sort of a consortium of cities that banded together to manage the household hazardous waste program. So since Lee Summit has a permanent facility, we do not have to pay per capita into this kitty. The other cities that actually participate, the current fee is $1.13 per capita. So Raytown recently joined. They pay $1.13 per citizen to participate in this, but Lee Summit does not because we host collections with a permanent facility. Consumers pay if they have to drop off paint and they're not in an eligible city, they have to pay $2 a gallon to drop it off. And of course, there's a lot of paint that's illegally dumped, a lot of paint that's hidden in trash cans. We're trying to avoid that. We're trying to manage the material professionally. Next slide, please. Paint stewardship is a win-win. What we're looking at is increasing services, cutting down costs for local governments, trying to manage the material in a professional manner, reusing those paint materials in the market again. And as you see on the picture on the right, paint hidden in trash cans does not end well. We're just trying to manage it professionally. Next slide, please. Paint Care is a not-for-profit organization that provides services in multiple states. And if you look at the legislation, Paint Care would most likely be the not-for-profit organization that manages this program. Next slide, please. This is washed out a little bit, but the Minnesota on the left provides a lot of access to citizens, and Missouri on the right, of course, is limited, and that's sort of the main reason for the legislation. And you'll see down in the writing The estimated cost is 75 cents per gallon. And that cost is not written in the legislation because they don't know what that will be. The not-for-profit organization who manages the program would actually set that cost and inform the manufacturers of what that fee is, which would be assessed to each gallon that's sold in Missouri. Next slide, please. So here are the 10 states plus DC that actually have a paint care management solution in place. Illinois recently passed theirs. Their program's not started yet, but the legislation was passed last year. And Missouri, of course, is working on that. Next slide, please. And these are the two bills, Senate Bill 936 and House Bill 2152. Both of those have hearings today and tomorrow. So the district, the Solid Waste Management District in Missouri, of course, is supporting this legislation because we manage the material in the 5-county area. And this provides an opportunity to actually replace the taxpayer money that goes into these programs with the user fee for people that use paint. Right now, we'll just use Raytown as an example. The household hazardous waste fee is in competition with police and fire services. So, you know, you're most likely going to charge you're going to fund your police and fire before you're going to fund your household hazardous waste program. So this takes it off of the cities and puts it into a user fee that would be managed by the nonprofit, which would increase access for the citizens. Next slide, please. That's pretty much it. Nadja Carpolo is the planner who created the slides. I don't know that I have a whole lot more. As far as management of the program, the manufacturers would put the fee per gallon on the gallon of paint when they send it to the retailers. So the retailers would pass that cost on to the consumers. And what they call a representative organization, which is the not-for-profit that I mentioned, that agency would actually come to the retailers and collect the used paint. And they would process it and produce a report for the state. The money is audited annually by an independent auditor statewide. And DNR has a pretty limited role, which was very clear in the legislation, that DNR would only approve the plan and review the annual report. So that's pretty much the extent of DNR's activity. The website would be maintained by the not-for-profit, and the website would provide a list of all the retailers where citizens could go to take their paint for free. So citizens would come into a Sherwin-Williams facility, assuming that they agreed to be a collection facility. They would drop off their paint and there would be no fee exchanged at all. All of that would be covered by the 75-cent per gallon fee. And with that, I'll just stop talking and answer any questions, hopefully, that I can that you have.
Okay, Mr. Besson, thank you. I think I'm going to start it off. I have a question on my mind real fast. So essentially, if we went the route of Raytown, it would cost the city $125,000 a year to administer this program, when we already have a PDA that takes paint for no price. But then you said something about the 75-cent fee. So the bills in the Missouri legislature would negate the city of Lee Summit paying the fee, correct? Per capita fee.
Let me back up. Currently, Lee Summit does not pay a per capita fee.
No.
We provide the facilities, so that fee is waived for us. That would continue if the legislation passed or didn't pass. The The cities that have to pay per capita are the cities that would benefit more significantly than Lee Summit would. Lee Summit specifically would probably gain the most because our contractor would be able to be reimbursed through those funds. Our contractor, which is Casey Dumpster, which manages that facility for us, would have a separate fund to request reimbursement from. Right
Through the
now, they
nonprofit,
request.
right? Through the nonprofit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the biggest benefit for Lee Summit would be, Brian, you can stop the screen share if you like. I think the biggest benefit for us would be an increased ability to drop off paint at these retailers that agree to accept it. So instead of citizens coming to our facility whenever it's open, and we're open 6 days a week, which is really good. But if you wanted to go to a local paint store to drop off your material, it'd be much easier because, you know, they're closer to their house. They might have more expansive hours. We close at 4. If Home Depot, who sells paint, would like to accept it, they obviously could go there till 9 or 10 at night. It would be more user friendly for Lee Summit. I think from a big picture perspective, it provides great access for citizens statewide that could take advantage of this. The goal is 90% of Missouri citizens would have a facility within 15 miles of them to drop off material. And that would be a huge improvement for, you know, cities that have no access, counties that have no access. You know, you just don't want people putting this in the trash or putting it in the ditch, or, you know, some of this material is hazardous. You don't want kids accessing it, or, you know, animals or pets. So it's just a matter of professional management.
Right. And that was my point. I just wanted to be sure that since we do have a program, or maybe not a program, but we have the opportunity to drop used paint off at the PDA, that we're not roped into a per capita fee. I do agree that recycle or unused paint, if you recycle it, you're in good shape. But the unused paint that people do have, I agree that there should be an opportunity or avenue for them to get rid of it easily. But I want to be sure that the city of Lee Summit, if the legislation is passed, that the city of Lee Summit will not have to pay per capita, even though, as you said, a resident could choose not to go to the PDA and pay the Sherwin-Williams or whoever the fee to drop off their paint, much like used tires. So
that's
anyway,
true. We would not have a fee. That's
okay.
true.
I will thank you, Mr. Besson. I will open it up for other questions if anybody has any. I don't see anybody questioning. Oh, Mayor Baird.
Chris, what, when you say illegal dumping, you've got most of our state was in very, very limited access, and then you had some areas in red that had no access. So what do people that have no access in parts of our state, are you saying that it's illegal to dump down in that southwest corner of the state where there's no access to get rid of your paint?
I could only assume it would be a violation of some sort to dump pretty much anything in the ditch. I mean, there are some counties that allow open burning. I'm certainly hoping they're not burning paint. I don't know the answer to the question of where they put it. They simply could be stockpiling it. There's a lot of people in, you know, everywhere that just save paint. It's just in the basement. It's in the garage. You know, they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to manage it. It just sits there. Some of it goes from homeowner to homeowner and continues to stay there. I shudder to think what some of those citizens in the rural areas are doing. You know, you have to assume it goes in the trash, or maybe there's a nonprofit.
Yeah, let me ask Mr. Head, since he's was in Joplin all those years. and that corner down there is red, and they built a whole lot of houses and stuff down there. Where's all the paint go?
You know, I don't know. I'm afraid it probably gets landfilled.
And that's not illegal in the state.
I don't think it is illegal in the state. You know, I don't honestly know. Joplin did have its own recycling center, but we did not have, as far as I recall, a household hazardous waste drop off. They recycled, you know, metals and things like that you could drop off, bottles and glass, and, well, actually not bottles and glass. It was more like paper and aluminum and those types of recyclables, the ones that there were actual markets for. I can't tell you. I know during the tornado, we had a big push on household hazardous waste, but we'd gotten all kinds of money from EPA to pick up chemicals and paint and just anything like that. And people could, you know, we had designated piles for things. But as far as where it all went, where other paint and so on goes, I don't recall there ever being a big push or a lot of discussion about it.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I can tell you that bulk liquids are banned from Missouri landfills. DNR is not very specific on explaining what bulk liquids mean. I can tell you that our landfill, which is closed, we actually inspected loads to make sure paint did not go into our landfill. But that's sort of the way we managed it. Most of the landfills in the state are privately run. But bulk liquids are banned from landfills. I can tell you that.
Okay. What about, Mr. Bussin, what about at our resource recovery park? If I take paint in, don't I get charged though when I bring it in?
You would not as a resident of Lee Summit.
Okay. I
It's
get charged for other stuff, but not paint.
Yes, that's true.
Okay. Okay. What so that would be the case that the nonprofit is saying, is that the cities would pay, but the citizens would not. Because I just, you know, being from a small town, I know nobody wanted to pay for recycling when I was growing up. So the fact that the city is already paying for it, and so it's at no cost to the citizen, is, I think, a benefit, and would encourage people to bring their paint to the appropriate location. So, and then I saw that you said that if they had over 100 cans, that you could actually, they do on-site pickup.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting piece of the program. I'm glad you mentioned that. This legislation would sort of change state law when it comes to who can actually get paint recycled. So right now, the City of Lee Summit's permanent facility is only licensed to accept residential paint. And if you're a local church and you call Lee Summit, we don't accept commercial paint. Their option is to call a waste management company, which is not cheap, to come and get their paint. This new legislation would open up the opportunity for commercial entities to participate in the program. If you are a church or a school, you would actually be able to call this nonprofit company to come and pick it up if you had over 100 gallons stored at your facility, which is a complete change of the existing rule, which is a truly great piece of this legislation. It opens it up to the commercial sector. And we are not permitted to accept commercial material, and neither is Kansas City. So, you know, there's a lot of paint from not-for-profits, churches, schools, companies that they're simply holding on to. They just don't have access to this type of service, and this new legislation would change that for the better.
I mean, I like everything I'm hearing about it, and then I was just wondering about how it's funded. And it's your slide said that basically paint manufacturers are the people that invest in this nonprofit or donate to this Is that correct?
That's true. Yeah, only manufacturers would charge the retailers, and the retailers, of course, would charge the consumers per gallon. And if you bring, if you're a paint company that paint retailer that accepts the material, there's no money that changes hands when citizens bring their paint in. It's already paid for. They're simply counting how many gallons. The not-for-profit comes and picks it up, weighs the material, tracks all of the gallons that are managed, and reports to the state at the end of the year. The fees on this would not start until July 1st of 2025, and that's the per gallon fee. And the program itself, according to the legislation, would not start until January 1st of 2026. So you're looking at obviously a longer term rollout of the program. And this is the third year that this legislation has been introduced in Jeff City. So supposedly the third year is when you may get traction with legislations, what we've heard. It's been pushed by solid waste management professionals across the state for all of those 3 years. I attend advisory board hearings in Jeff City 7 times a year, and we talk about paint management. What are you doing about it? We talk about prescription medication, all these kinds of things. So this has been around for a while.
I'm sure it's a headache for all the waste management organizations and such, because they don't want paint in their landfills and they don't want to get fined. And so they'd like a solution. So it makes sense why they support it.
Yeah, the difficult piece of this is the program in Kansas City serves 37 different cities and 5 counties. And each year, of course, cities struggle with their budget. So we'll have cities that come in a year, they drop the next year, they'll come in the next year. It is very difficult to try to inform citizens of who's in the program and who's not, keeping the information consistent when cities are coming and going. It's difficult to fight for taxpayer funds. There's no doubt about that. And this moves it to a user fee, which I think is a great solution.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Bussin on this subject? And again, I think it's a good program too. I shudder to think where all the paint goes in the rural areas. But anyway, anybody else have any questions or comments on this paint recycling? Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Bussin. Very informative.
Thank you.
Moving on, we're up to roundtable.
Mr. Chairman, before we move on from that, I am just looking from some guidance that can be consensus. If the committee is supportive, then I will let our lobbyists know that so that they can, can kind of work some of their magic behind the scenes on this bill. Like I said, I just wasn't comfortable giving them direction without a check-in with LARC on this matter.
Well, show of thumbs or comment, anybody? Mayor, you're muted.
What's Mr. Head looking for? I missed that.
He's looking for a head nod.
Just a consensus, yay or nay, as to whether, and I'll let our lobbyists know one way or the other, to kind of work to support this bill.
Oh, I'm a yay.
I'm with it.
And I saw Councilmember Pryor had a thumbs up, so.
Okay. All right. I guess, Councilmember Lovell, I didn't see your thumb up. Did you have a one way or the other?
I'm indifferent about it.
Okay. All right. So we got 3 thumbs and
one of these.
What? Right there. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Head. All right. We'll move on then to the roundtable discussion. Anybody have anything in roundtable, Mayor?
We're going to go next week to MML, and like I said, it'd be nice if I could get an idea of we'll try to touch base with Zach and John, the lobbyists, about an approach instead of one big ask. Hey, what's the first step? And we'll ask the representatives and senators, hey, what would you like to see for us to connect you with our U.S. congressman to have any kind of conversation about 470. And then of course, we'll talk about the landfill again next week, but we've been talking to them every week for a year and a half or whatever, but that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Pryor, Councilmember Lovell, anything in roundtable? I don't see Ms. Pryor. Ms. Pryor, you came? Okay, you're
I don't.
okay. I agree, Mayor. Yeah, we get in front of them, get some direction on how to approach and move forward. Hopefully, move forward. I'm
One thing I was just gonna say, I really like the list of legislative priorities that it's printed on. I really like the way that looks this year, the front and the back. I just think it looks really nice. So thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any roundtable from you, Mr. Head, or?
I don't have anything.
Just my usual. The next meeting would be March 11th at 11:30, and if you keep it, via Zoom.
Okay, March 11th. Put it on the calendars. Crystal, did you have anything roundtable? It looks like you're studying something, so.
It looks like what?
I thought you were studying something, getting ready to say something, so.
Oh, no, I've just been taking notes.
Good. All right, well, with no other discussion, then I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you all for attending and commenting. Thank you.
Thank you so much.